Prime Minister, you talked about Jeremy Corbyn being naked and alone in the conference chamber. This is getting very personal now. Is that really acceptable language at this time in an election?
No, let's look at what's going to happen after the election. People will be voting on the 8th of June as to who will be Prime Minister, and there's only a choice of one or two people, myself or Jeremy Corbyn. Then just 11 days after that election, the Prime Minister has to go and start those negotiations with the European Union to get the best deal for Brexit, to get the best deal for Britain in Europe.
I understand that. It's the language I'm concerned about. Naked and alone. I think if he had said that about you, you said, picture this image. I mean, imagine if he had said that about you, you wouldn't find that acceptable, would you?
Well, what I think when I look at this issue is, let's be very clear, what does this represent? It represents the difference between myself having prepared for the negotiations, having a clear plan for the negotiations, and Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, who have said that they would tear up the plan that we've produced. So they wouldn't have a stable negotiating position to take into those negotiations.
But using that
just
sort
11
of language,
days.
I know,
11 days.
You said that, I accept that, but using that language, does that show that you're getting a little bit concerned, a bit desperate in terms of how you're trying to respond to Jeremy Corbyn on this?
No, what it shows is that this is the most crucial election this country has faced in my lifetime. What it shows is that choice people will make on the 8th of June is a crucial choice for our future, because we need to ensure we get a good deal from Brexit. And that means starting off with a strong hand in those negotiations. That's what people will be choosing when they vote on the 8th of June. Who should take this country forward into those negotiations? Who has the plan? And who has the plan to build a stronger Britain through Brexit and beyond?
You talk about someone being strong, but on national insurance changes, on the cap on social care, on whether we should even have an election, on whether you're in or out of the European Union, you have changed your mind several times. Why should people think they can trust what you're saying this time? Why should people think you're strong?
Well, I think that strong and stable leadership is about being open with people about the great challenges that we face, being open with people about the importance of the Brexit negotiations, being open with people and having solutions proposed for those great challenges. That's what I've put forward. I've got a clear plan for Brexit. I've got a clear plan to make sure not just that we get Brexit right, but also that we build a stronger Britain. That's about a good school place for every child. It's about having a strong economy, able to fund our National Health Service, building more affordable homes so people have a chance of owning their own home.
Aren't voters, though, entitled to look at what you've said in the past and how you've changed your mind and say, I don't really know what she stands for. She says she wants to do this, but I don't know if she's going to change her mind a little bit further down the road.
Well, what I stand for is ensuring that we deliver on the vote that the British people took in the referendum on leaving the European Union. We gave the public the choice. They voted. They want us to leave the European Union. And we are the only party that is absolutely committed to delivering on that vote, to respecting the will of the British people. And I'm absolutely determined to do that.
But in Brexit negotiations also, our European partners are going to look at you and say, well, we've seen when the pressure goes on to the Prime Minister, on to Theresa May, she backs down. She's done it over national insurance. She's done it over the cap on social care. We just have to get in there and fight and she'll back down. That's what they could be thinking, isn't it?
What I think everybody in Brussels is going to be looking at is the negotiations I've done in the past in Brussels when I was Home Secretary, when I got exactly what we said we would get from those negotiations, when everybody was saying to me this was about matters to do with our cooperation on criminal matters and security matters. Everybody said the EU won't let you get what you want.
That was a few opt-outs. That was a few opt-outs, not on an entire future for this country. This is a much bigger negotiation that you're going to have to undertake.
But the point is very simple. I've negotiated in Brussels. I've come back with a successful negotiation. I've now got a plan for negotiating Brexit. The Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, don't have a plan. Just 11 days after the election, the new Prime Minister has to take their Brexit negotiation plan into those negotiations. I will be able to do that. He won't.
I just want to put you on the spot about a few numbers here. What about winter fuel allowance? How many pensioners are going to lose their winter fuel allowance?
We've been very clear on the winter fuel allowance that the least well-off pensioners will be protected, but we're not going to set the limit at which the means test will hit in, because what I want to do is to consult with people about that. Okay. So we will ask voters, we'll ask organisations, charities and others who work with older people about where that limit should be set. So we'll have a consultation on that, and I think that's fair.
And what about the cap on social care? Where will that be set?
We're going to consult on that. As we said, we would publish a green paper in our manifesto with the details of how we would put in place our social care policy.
Yeah, you didn't mention a cap in the green paper.
And that's one of the things that we will... Well, let me just tell you about why I clarified that situation. We've set out the principles of social care. Right now, people can have to pay for their care if they've got more than £23,000 of savings. Many people find they have... And if it's residential care, their house and its value are taken into account. And many people find they have to sell their house to pay the bills and see that what they'd hoped to pass on to their children being virtually wiped out completely. I want to take those risks away, making sure people don't have to sell their house in their lifetime to pay for their care. They can pass £100,000 on to their children, but we're doing it in a way that will be fair across generations, so there will be a cap. And I clarified there'd be a cap because there'd been a lot of scaremongering
but you can't
about
say where
what was
the cap
going to
will
happen.
be. Can you tell us where the cap will be?
But I've been very clear about the cap, that we won't set the cap now, we will consult on it.
So
I think that's only, but there's a very important principle underpinning this, Andy, which is that on both the winter fuel allowance and the cap, absolute cap on the payment amount people have to pay for care costs, what I'm saying is we want to work with people, listen to voters, listen to charities and other organisations that work with older people, and then set that cap, not just come up with a figure during an election campaign.
Isn't there also an important principle that voters should know what they're voting for, and you can't tell pensioners how many of them may lose their winter fuel, you can't say where the cap on social care will come, you can't say whether you'll raise national insurance, you can't say whether you'll raise income tax. You're asking voters to vote not knowing an awful lot of important things.
I'm very clear the Conservative Party has always been, is and will always be a party of lower taxes, and it is our firm intention to reduce taxes on ordinary working families. But what I want to ensure is that when we come to the election, we have set out for people the very big challenges that this country faces. I think it's right that a government doesn't just open the sweetie tin for people, but actually says there are some hard choices, some challenges ahead that we need to address. One of those is Brexit and getting that right. Another is building the strong economy. If we don't have a strong economy, we can't pay for our health service, we can't pay for our schools. Another is ensuring that we heal divisions in our society, that we ensure we deal with our ageing society by having a long-term, sustainable means of providing social care for older people. And we need to look at the changing workplace, the technology that will change jobs in the future. These are big challenges. It's me and my party that are being open about those challenges and about the solutions for them.
Are you also being open about the fact that the Institute for Fiscal Studies, for instance, the primary number crunchers in the country, say that under your plans, working age households on the lowest incomes will be even worse off than they've been after the cuts that were in place in 2010. You're supposed to be for the just about managing. What are you offering those people? You seem to be offering them just more austerity with very little on the upside.
Well, what we have been doing is ensuring that the number of people paying income tax has been reduced. We've taken 4 million people already out of paying income tax. We've had a tax cut for over 30 million people, and we'll continue to raise the personal allowance to the £12,500 in 2020 that we had previously committed to.
But the
we've also
ensured those people's incomes will be reduced.
We've also ensured that the national living wage, we've introduced the national living wage, and that will continue to rise. And we want to help people with the cost of living. That's why I'm going to introduce a cap on the rip-off energy bills. And if you look at the standard rate and the average rate that people are paying, the difference between those is about £250. That matters to people.
I want to ask you 2 more questions. Immigration, how are you going to get it down below 100,000? Who are the people who are not going to be coming to Britain in the future?
Well, what I've learned over the years as I've dealt with the immigration issue is that you have to be consistently working at this. And we've already done a lot to root out abuse in the system. We need to carry on looking at that. Once we leave the European Union, we will have the ability to set rules for people coming from within the EU into the UK, just as we can today for people from outside the EU
But
into
immigration
the UK.
from outside the EU is actually greater than immigration from inside the EU at the moment. So obviously you haven't been managing to keep that figure down.
And over time, over the last few years, it's gone down. It has now come back up, which is why we've made clear in our manifesto we continue to work at that issue of non-EU migration. But there's a difference here between the Conservative Party, between me and my team, who are willing to say to people, we recognise the issues that you see with immigration, that it can affect people's wages at the lower end of the income scale, And that's why we believe in controlling migration.
The Office of
But
Budget Responsibility says...
Jeremy Corbyn does not believe in controlling migration.
The Office of Budget Responsibility says we will be poorer by something like £6 billion a year if we get to your immigration target. Are you prepared to pay that price? Is that a price worth paying to get immigration down?
No. What we're going to do is ensure that we have immigration rules that enable us to welcome the brightest and best into the United Kingdom, but that also we are out there across the world, trading our way across the world, building a stronger economy for the future, and crucially with that economy ensuring that that growth and that prosperity is spread across the whole of the United Kingdom. So everybody feels that they are benefiting from getting the Brexit deal right and from building that stronger economy.
Final question. The polls are narrowing. It's gone down to something like 5 or 6% between you and Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. You must be getting nervous about how this election is now playing out.
The poll that matters is the one that will take place on the 8th of June. And on the 8th of June, people have a very clear choice. It's a choice between who is going to be Prime Minister and leading those Brexit negotiations 11 days after polling day. It's a choice about who has the plan and the vision for the future to lead Britain not just through a successful Brexit, but lead us beyond to build a stronger Britain. I have the plan, I have the vision, I have the determination.
Did you underestimate Jeremy Corbyn when you called this election? You thought it was going to be a bit easier than this, didn't you?
I called the election because I saw other parties wanting to frustrate our Brexit negotiations. I thought it was right to say to people, we are the party, and we are the only party that is respecting the will of the people, that wants to deliver on that referendum vote and make a success of it.
Prime Minister, thanks very much.
Thank you.